The latest first-person adventure for Samus purposely goes out of its way to be both familiar in some ways and disruptively different in others, resulting in the most mixed but still undeniably alluring Metroid Prime game yet. It was a simple premise executed beautifully. One bounty hunter, one planet, and a shed ton of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Throughout the years, Metroid Prime has attempted to evolve this simple format that already worked so well in 2D before in several ways, yet it's always 2002's sublime original that players, and even Nintendo itself, keep on coming back to. The same is very much true for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, the long-gestating, much-delayed sequel initially intended to launch as an OG Nintendo Switch exclusive. Alas, so much time has passed between that 2017 announcement and its eventual release, Beyond now finds itself straddling two different generations, both in terms of consoles and the actual ideas it wants to implement. The result is a 3D Metroidvania often at odds with itself. Samus' stomping ground this time? Vuros, a planet certainly not lacking in secrets, environmental variety, or unique modes of exploration. And yet the entire premise of what's required of you feels overly compromised and oddly incoherent right from the off. Not that you'd know it to begin with. This is because the starting jungle-like area of Fury Green sets a great standard, doing well to settle you back into the familiar Metroid routine of scanning, traversing, and shooting, all in the aid of learning more about a mysterious alien race and, perhaps more importantly, how to eventually vacate this hostile rock Samus has been left stranded on following an opening skirmish with rival bounty hunter Sylux. Typical upgrades like the missile launcher and morph ball then come thick and fast in classic fashion, in what is an admittedly familiar, yet otherwise incredibly alluring first 2 hours. It's Metroid Prime at its most comfortable, to the point that I wouldn't mind cozying up to it in the vein of Samus in her morph ball. It's when the Soul Valley area is introduced that Beyond reveals its true self, however.
Found a teleporter key. Congratulations. Looks like there's 3 keys left.
Which is more of a series of totally disconnected biomes, each denoted by a different element, fed through this desert-like sandbox. It's the most obvious way in which Metroid Prime 4 attempts to have its own cake and eat it, trying to expand the scope of what's come before, while also trying to appease the veteran player base's desire for more linear, back-and-forth locales that gradually expand as you gain new abilities. It's a structural conflict that never seems to quite fit neatly, even as the game progresses. In a similar fashion to Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom before it, Soul Valley is a widely open setting that in theory should be full of many mysteries to uncover. In fact, much like Link's most recent adventures, these most commonly come in the form of shrines too. But whereas Hyrule's puzzle boxes could be solved using a range of tools Link is gifted from the very start, this isn't the way Samus's arsenal has traditionally worked, and the promise of this central location largely suffers as a result. By the time I entered the second shrine, I discovered, only to learn that I didn't yet have the correct upgrade needed to solve it, sticking to the game's intended track and revisiting them afterwards felt like the best route forward. Before it's even had a chance then, this opportunity to embrace player freedom and choice has already totally faltered. Fortunately, almost all of the different locales Samus must visit surrounding Soul Valley to complete her mission come packed full of the usual intrigue and allure that Metroid Prime fans have come to expect. The first of which is the appropriately named Vault Forge, forever subjected to continuous lightning and thunderstorms that help set a particularly sullen mood. In a particularly cool series of events that see Samus united with her two-wheeled method of transport, more on that later, the act of putting it together felt undeniably epic and cool. So much of a great impression does Vault Forge make, in fact. It's a natural high that later biomes such as Ice Belt and Flare Pool can never quite match. Even still though, all are well crafted in their own right, I just wish they all added up to a more interconnected whole. From here, Metroid Prime 4 does what it has always done best, tasking Samus to explore the arteries of such locations in order to find more useful tools and weapons, most of which are punctuated by a cinematic boss fight or poignant narrative moment that reveals more about the cryptic Lamorne race. Story-wise, it's all relatively light as expected, instead making way for abilities like the Spring Ball, different elemental shots, and Charge Beam to further shine, and complement a whole host of new psychic powers that Samus can wield, all of which work to open up new layers of each location, and the overall ensuing mystery they lead to. Speaking of which, much has been said about Samus's new psychic skills ahead of release, so imagine my surprise to learn that they're not quite as revolutionary as the marketing made them out to be. Most work pretty much as you'd expect, despite being glazed in purple and dressed up differently. The psychic boots in particular are the biggest culprit for this, working mostly as a glorified double jump. Other psychic abilities, like the control beam's ability to let you maneuver your shot to solve puzzles and catch enemies off guard, are neat, yet most are functional at best and don't detract too much from the typical arsenal or gadgets Samus tends to acquire in your average Metroid Prime game anyway. The major outlier to this, of course, is the Viola. As far as vehicles in games go, I don't necessarily hate it, but it does feel like the kind of addition designed to try and solve an issue brought about of Retro Studios' own making, that being the aforementioned Soul Valley and the general disconnectedness it causes. Boosting, jumping, scanning, and shooting on the back of a bike are all actions that don't feel bad to pull off. It's just very different to every other Metroid Prime game that has come before this one. As a result, people's mileage with it will vary from player to player. Far more scandalous, at least in my opinion, is the need to revisit man in the chair himself, Miles McKenzie, back in Fury Green whenever you pick up Samus's most crucial abilities. She never needed to have an item installed by someone else before in order to start immediately using it, so doing so in Beyond feels like a bit of an oversight. Finally, despite also being developed to work on the original Nintendo Switch, playing through Metroid Prime 4 on Switch 2 is almost always a feast for the eyes. The odd flat texture and item of foliage aside, Metroid Prime has never looked or played better than on Nintendo's latest hybrid console, offering silky smooth 60 FPS in both handheld and docked mode, with a further option to play at 120 FPS on certain TVs that support it. Getting totally absorbed in each location isn't all that hard. The same generosity has been applied to Beyond's various control setups, which includes new mouse controls and a revised form of the returning pointer controls from Prime 3 on the Nintendo Wii. That said, I personally preferred to enjoy the bulk of the game in classic portable fashion in handheld mode, since it always looked and played gloriously. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is a peculiar beast indeed. Despite Retro Studios' best efforts, additions like the Viola motorcycle, chattier NPCs, and a semi-open world hub serve mostly as a distraction to series mainstays that have otherwise been proven to work. As such, Beyond's best elements are those we've already come to expect, namely a focus on fueling player curiosity, having Samus become satisfyingly stronger over time, and the ability to instill that feeling of true isolation, the latter of which is all too fleeting here. This fourth go around isn't a disaster by any means, but it does end up being merely a shadow of its former self in search of fresh ways to innovate. It all amounts to what is easily the most mystifying and mixed of Samus Aran's first-person outings yet, but there's still some joy to be found in slowly peeling back the layers of an ever-expanding world, regardless of how disjointed it ends up being. We at All Out Gaming give Metroid Prime 4 Beyond a 3 out of 5. So there you have it, guys, in terms of our full review thoughts on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Do you plan on picking this one up? Be sure to let us know in the comment section below. Then why not leave this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the All Out Gaming YouTube channel to stay up to date with even more videos like this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.